Now that we have a graph made, we need to put error bars on it. Error bars are a measure of how variable the data are around the average. So, for example, for the 1 minute of jogging group, there's a pulse rate of 80, 77, and 91. So we have an average of 82.67. Now the average is 82.67. That's the dot on the graph, and the error bars will give us some idea of how variable around that average the other data points were that we used to calculate that average. And the way we do that, first we have to calculate standard deviation, and then we convert that into standard error. And we're going to use standard error on our graph. So the way to do that is to I made a column here called SD for standard deviation and one called SE for standard error. I put equals, and the formula for standard deviation is ST-DEVA. And then you open a parenthesis, and just like when we do averages, we highlight the raw numbers, close our parenthesis, and we hit enter. So once again, equals ST-DEVA, open a parenthesis, highlight the three numbers here that we used to calculate our average, and hit enter. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the rest of these. Oops, I messed that up. Good thing there's an undo button. Okay, so I'm going to go Control C and paste down here. Alright, so now we want to convert these to standard error, and the way to do that is equals, then you click on standard deviation divided by. So standard error is the standard deviation divided by the square root of the number of samples. So we have 3 samples for every average, right? Because every average is made up of 3 things added together and divided by 3, right? So the sample size for this experiment is 3. So we go standard deviation, we clicked on it, divided by the square root, which is SQRT, of 3. You put 3 in parentheses, okay? And you hit enter. So one more time, equals, click on the standard deviation divided by the square root of 3. And once again, I can just copy and paste this formula, and I have it done quite quickly then. Now we just need to add those to our figure, and the way to do that is to click on the figure if you have a PC anyway, and find the plus button. If you have a Mac, you might look this up on YouTube, but there will be very similar controls, but they're often found up here. So you click the plus button, and then we're going to add in, let me find it, error bars. There we go. And we go to more options, and then we go to custom. And we go to specify, actually before we go to anything, let's click on these side, see how the error bars, there's up and down ones and sideways ones? We want to delete the sideways ones by clicking on them and deleting them. Now let's go back to this. Error bars, more options. And now if you ever get a view like this where you can't find what you're looking for, that's because one of these other, there are 3 options up here. One of them is like colors and stuff. You want to click on the graph, and that will bring up the right menu. So we want to go to custom, and don't ever click standard error, it doesn't do it right. So you click on custom, you click on specify value. Once you're on here, it says positive value and negative value. What you do is you click the little arrow, it'll bring up a box, and you highlight all of the standard errors that you've calculated, and you click this little arrow again, and for negative error value, you highlight the exact same numbers. And then you click OK. And there are the error bars. Now I want to show you something. This graph should not have a best fit line, at least not a linear best fit line, because the data is not really linear. It goes up and it levels off. But let me show you how to insert a best fit line so you know how, just in case you don't know. So you click on the plus button and you go down to trend line, and you would go to more options. And what you would do, and typically we don't use a trend line in Bio 1 unless the data is linear. So we'll pretend this data is linear, meaning it goes up or down in a linear fashion. So we have linear trend line selected, and then down here we can click show equation on chart, and then we have the equation of the line. And that's how you add a best fit line if you need one. Okay? Alright, that concludes this video on error bars and best fit lines.